And away we go. It's the DFS Early Bird Podcast. It's your old pal Emac filling in for one. Dan Strafford. Chris, how the hell are you?
Man, I'll tell you what, man. You sound like you had a wild night tonight, so I'm ready for this. I'm excited, actually. You just built up my spirits. So happy Zion Day.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a lot of fun, a lot of moving parts here. I'm filling in for Dan Strafford. He had some family stuff he's working with, so he'll we got three young kids and all that stuff. There's always many variables that your old pal doesn't have, so I'm hopping in for him. You'll get him and Laffy for tomorrow's show, and I forget who's on. Oh, Adam and Dan will be doing the day after. So back to the normal schedule after that. But in the meantime, you've got myself and Chris. We are coming into a Wednesday with 12 games on the NBA slate. There was just one on Tuesday after we had a very healthy holiday set of actions. Kind of three main slates there, depending on the sites you were playing on. You could bounce around, but that was a lot of fun. I did the podcast last night with Joey Corman, and I was losing. I woke up this morning and I cleared just over $500 there on Yahoo. I finished 14th. I had a team with I think five guys were in the last night, the game of the night, and it went into overtime. And I had Damian Lillard, so that worked out. My random 1v1 that could have got me there, I had Cody Zeller, and there were five other players that I had the money for that I could have had instead of him that would have taken down the $15,000 prize. So I'm not lamenting anything because one of them was. The neck tat what's his name, neck tat James Johnson, who had a phenomenal game, but I was laughing because that would have left a couple bucks on the table and all that. So I don't know that I really wanted Cody Zeller, but I can't complain about the end result. So it turned out to be what I thought was going to be a bad night turned out to be a good night. Of course, I slept through it all, though. You're lucky to be out there on the West Coast. You can easily, hell, your night just starts after the games end.
My night hasn't even started yet, and it's already 10 o'clock over where you're at, man. So, I mean, I could still do this podcast and go out to dinner if I wanted to. You got to love it. The West Coast time is super friendly to DFS.
It is, as long as you aren't chained to a desk. I was thinking about that actually on the way home today from work because it's perfect on the East Coast because you can get home and usually have half hour 40 minutes before lock and make your teams and do whatever. Man, on the West Coast, I would somehow need to block every afternoon from 3 to 4, find a conference room or something where people couldn't see what was on my computer, and then hope nobody needed me right away. Otherwise I would be entering dummy lineups. I don't think that would be a very profitable way to do it. So kudos for anybody that does that out on the West Coast.
Love that, man. I think when I started playing DFS in like 2013, and I got my first big win, everyone in the workplace wanted to begin DFS, and I think I think 10 or 15 people started up accounts, and everyone started getting into it, and the company ended up banning DraftKings and FanDuel from the server. So I had to switch from doing it on my computer because I had like my own office. And then I, would be out on the sales floor, making sure that, everyone was doing their job. But I would always go back and forth. And man, everyone started talking more about DFS than they did about sales and became a really huge problem. So changed the company culture real quick.
That's funny. My company bans anything with the word fantasy in it. I don't know that it's for. At first, I wasn't sure if it was just because fantasy or for fantasy sports. But you can get to ESPN's front page, but anything with fantasy in the URL is banned. Same thing with Yahoo. Same thing with CBS. No DraftKings, no FanDuel, no any of that. So it's kind of can be a headache at times. So if I really needed to do something, I could go around the corner to the coffee shop, I guess, and. Well, I guess I'd need my own computer to do that. So in any event, those are the triumphs and tragedies of people doing DFS. I guess that's not what they're paying us to do. But let's give the audience what they're looking for. We'll go by position here, but the first one we're going to give a shout out to is second will be Zion. First will be Superdraft, who is the sponsor now of the Early Bird podcast. So if you guys have not yet signed up at Superdraft, you can go over there to superdraft.io And when you create your account, when you make your first deposit, if you put in $100 and use the promo code AWESEMO, they will give you $20 in SuperDraft cash. If you do not use the promo code AWESEMO and you put in $100, you will get $10 SuperDraft cash. So use the promo code AWESEMO. It is much better that way. How do they work there? Well, a little bit different. They don't have salary caps. They do have position requirements for basketball. Pretty straightforward. 3 guards, 3 forwards, and the center. And how it works is they assign everybody a multiplier. So somebody who's really good, say like James Harden or Russell Westbrook or Giannis Antetokounmpo, they have a 1 multiplier. Tonight, Zion has a 2 multiplier. So that means if he scores 30 fantasy points, that's actually 60 fantasy points. Whereas if Harden scores 60 fantasy points, that's 60 fantasy points. So that's their little wrinkle there. We do have projections here at Awesemo that takes into account the multiplier, so you can check that out. And they are Fantasy Cruncher friendly. Additionally, they do have late swap, and they also have single game football. So you'll be seeing, I'm not sure if they'll do the Pro Bowl, but they will be doing something for the Super Bowl. So that's how it works there. Scoring, kind of a hybrid format of the sites you're used to. They do have double-double and triple-double bonuses. They do give a half a point bonus for 3-pointers. They also have 3 points for blocks and steals. So it's kind of a hybrid of the FanDuel, Yahoo, and the DraftKings scoring. But it's pretty fun. Definitely check them out. They're intentionally having overlay in the contest and how they're sizing them, so they want you to give it a try over there. But again, go on to superdraft.io, use the promo code AWESEMO. If you put in $100, they will give you $20 SuperDraft cash immediately. All right, Zion. So here's the fun. So Zion played what, 1 or 2 preseason games, something along those lines. Not very many minutes. He ended up having a slight tear. I think it was meniscus. Had surgery. They had said 6 to 8 weeks. We are now into almost month 4. So he has not played in just over 13 weeks. He is still listed as questionable, but he is going to be making his debut Wednesday. This game is going to be on ESPN. And we are guessing, I say we, if you look at the pundits, word from insiders, etc., we're looking at about 20 minutes. Now, here's the tricky part. He is going to be wildly popular because DraftKings and FanDuel said, oh, I bet people are going to want to play him. Let's make him 5,000 on DraftKings and 4,500 on FanDuel. He has 27 on Yahoo. And as I mentioned, he has the 2 multiplier over there on SuperDraft. So I think that 2 multiplier is relatively fair. I think we're going to see a lot of crowd surge at the $5,000 and $4,500 price points. With 12 games, Chris, we should have a lot of ways to go. But come on, you're going to want Zion on a few teams at least, so you can watch and root along with everybody else when he makes his debut.
I mean, I know if you're doing 150 lineups, yeah, you could definitely pop a few Zion shares in there, but really, how much upside do you think he's going to have playing maybe 18, 20 minutes? I don't know. I think, yeah, I mean, from a excitement perspective, yeah, sure, go ahead. If you're, having fun with this, absolutely. But I mean, in high stakes, or if you're, someone who's doing a single entry, I'm not sure I'm going to roll the dice on Zion yet.
So I think that's the reasonable way to go. Odds are he's probably going to play those 20 minutes. It wouldn't shock me if he plays like 5, 5, 5, 5.
He has to start.
That's I think. Well, one, yeah, kind of non-negotiable.
Money. Oh my God, they got to start him.
Yeah, so I would figure that even just from his perspective, it's better to have him warm up and just get out there. I read a couple interviews, articles with him saying there's no way he's going to sleep tonight before the game and all of that. So he's really, really excited for this. I think a reasonable projection would be to give him, let's say he just goes crazy and gets a double-double. That's still only going to put him at about 30 fantasy points. And we know that there's capped upside. So he really would need to go like 8 for 10 with 12 rebounds and 4 blocks in 20 minutes. Could he do that? Perhaps. He is going against a savvy veteran team there in San Antonio. So it'll be fun to follow along. I think the DK and the FanDuel prices make it completely worthwhile that you can put them in your lineups. Just know that you'll be following the masses on those. And
Absolutely.
I think it'll be harder for him to really be a difference maker that first night, just because for as long as they've kept him kind of in bubble wrap, because he's been practicing for 5-on-5 for a fair amount of time. I don't think they're going to go crazy night one.
Mm.
Just my take.
Yeah, I mean, I think you start them, you get the hype in, obviously it's a nationally televised game. They moved it to ESPN. Originally it wasn't being covered. And yeah, I mean, you live up to those expectations for the fans, but obviously they had to teach him how to run and walk, right? I mean, they had to
so they changed. That's a good point. They changed his style, his gait, and his there was another word they used, but yeah, they've had him adjust because the way he carries himself and with his weight, etc. They're trying to make it so his knees and hips are not going to absorb. I mean, I don't know what he looks like. He weighs what, like 260, 270 maybe.
Yeah, I think he's if I'm not mistaken, I thought he was 250.
Okay. Well,
I could be wrong though. I mean,
I'm going to add a few because that seems about right there. But I don't have any perspective. He looks like a.
Oh wow! Never mind. He's 285.
Oh goodness. Okay, that's even more than that. All right. Well, let's call
LeBron's
300
LeBron's 250. That's my mistake.
Yeah,
285 at 6'6".
Do you remember Oliver Miller?
Yeah.
The big O, as they called him. That was before.
Was he bigger than Robert Tractor Trailer?
Robert Tractor Trailer, another guy, Rod, John Hot Plate Williams.
Dude, Oliver Miller was 380 pounds.
Yeah. He needed like a 6. I'm not even joking. Needed like a 6XL jersey.
That's insane.
And he was so light on his feet, and he was such an amazing passer too.
He was drafted in the first round too.
Yeah. He gained over 100 pounds while he was in the league.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah.
Wow. He's still alive.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. He was a big dude. How long did he play for in the NBA?
Oh, I think he
played for quite a few teams.
6 or 7 years, I think. He had a few injuries, and then everybody just kind of was giving him 1-year deals, if I remember correctly. This was like 15 years before DFS even started. So
yeah, he played for 10 years, man. Phoenix, Toronto, the Kings, Indiana, and even Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah. No, he was super talented, but he got the strain on his joints and tendons just was too much for what he was doing. But yeah, he was pretty amazing. But anyway, back to present, back to 2020. Let's get on to point guards here, because I was told I talked a lot about nothing on the last podcast, but not to fair. We're going wall-to-wall basketball here for this one, since we do have 12 games as opposed to just one from yesterday. So taking her from the top here again, we've got 12 teams, or probably 12 games, so it's 24 teams in action. Looking at the point guards here, let me call up. Let's see what are awaiting us here for injuries. And again, there's going to be a ton of moving parts. Drew Holiday should be back. He's been dealing with that sore elbow. He did return on Monday. You've got Kemba Walker was ill, dealing with a sore knee. He is listed as probable. Patrick Beverley did get injured on what night is this now? Tuesday night. So he is unlikely to play. Suffered a groin injury, so he's probably not going to play in Atlanta. You've got, let's see, Aaron Holiday has a thumb injury, and Austin Rivers also has a thumb injury. So those are the point guard injuries here. Off the top, we know that Paul George is not playing. That's a big one. Steven Adams is dealing with the sprained ankle in addition to his sore knee. We know RJ Barrett is out probably through the weekend. See, Moritz Wagner is potentially going to return this weekend, but I don't think he'll pop up. Mason Plumlee has a foot injury. He is out for through the weekend. Paul Millsap still out. Jamal Murray still out. So there's going to be some Gary Harris doubtful. So Denver could have some value. They've priced some of their guys up. We'll talk about it. And then Aaron Baines is going to be out along with for Phoenix, and then Kenrich Williams is still out for New Orleans. Not that it matters because you've got Zion back, but you've got Jahlil Okafor dinged up, Derek Favors dinged up. The other thing that Zion coming back does turns me off of everybody else from the Pelicans. With all of those moving parts, how are you feeling about point guard?
I think I'm not a fan of Harden at his price point right now. We mentioned it on the last podcast, but I mean, typically, where he's at, I'm not going to go ahead and say anything about his level of talent, but I just feel like on a 12-game slate, is it really worth it to pay up? I don't know if it is. Now, depending upon ownership, maybe that could be a leverage play, but I'd rather take Westbrook in this spot. I thought Westbrook's price would go up. It didn't. It's still at 9,800. He's under 10K. I feel like this is a fantastic spot for him because one, if Gary Harris is out, Jamal Murray's already out. I mean, their backcourt and with those two guys, you have to think that they have been the foundation of their defense in regards to guarding the guards. And I mean, if they're both out, I think this is a great situation for Westbrook. I really feel like he can go off once again. I mean, they're at home too. So, typically, as we know, when players go to Denver, it's kind of difficult because of the altitude and things of that nature. But love Westbrook at 9,800. LeBron James, he's 10-8 at New York. It's hard not to want to play him. They're coming off a 32-point loss last night against Boston. You would have to think that things changed right away going to New York and him having to, not only perform better, but them needing a much-needed win as far as a bounce-back concern. Trae Young's 95. Even though it's against the Clippers and Pat Bev, kind of like it just because of his price point. I mean, if you saw last game, he just did 73 DK points against Toronto EMAC. And I mean, Fred VanVleet is a pretty good defender. So that was pretty interesting. I think Ben Simmons, as long as Embiid is out, I think Ben Simmons is an all-time play. I mean, 9,300. This matchup for him, I don't mind it. But I must say, I mean, he's just controlling this offense right now. I mean, this is his offense. With Embiid out, he's playing over 40 minutes. He just dropped 84 DK points last game. But you would have to think, too, I mean, he has the triple-double potential, facilitator. He scored 34 points last game. I don't know how much of that was in the paint. I know he did knock down 10 free throws. No shot attempts from three. But, I mean, 12 of 14, 85% field goal percentage. The guy's been shooting really good. At 9,300, I don't mind him. And then other than that, though, looking at maybe a guy's a little bit lower. If Drew Holiday plays, I like him. I was kind of concerned, and I didn't roster him as much yesterday because I thought him with the elbow, how would his shot be? Would he be fully healthy? Would they play him a full amount of minutes? They did. He went off. It was a great play. San Antonio is a great spot for him. So if he is in the mix here and he is starting 8,100, I can go ahead and deal with that. And then De'Aaron Fox, he's been playing some great ball. Now, his fantasy stats won't say that in the last two games, but I got to tell you, he took 22 shot attempts last game. At 8,300 for someone who's playing 38 minutes, I mean, can you go wrong there? I don't think so. And once again, ownership and kind of just seeing how injuries play out, this will all factor in. But I like where we're at here with the guards up here. I like a lot of these guards. Priced 8K and above, and I don't mind it. I think you avoid paying up for James Harden on this 12-game slate, and you focus on these area of guards to begin really at a first look.
All right, looking at some of our cheap guys here, you've got Derrick Rose coming in at 7,000 on DK and FanDuel, 28 on Yahoo. Perfectly fine there. He's going against Sacramento. Sacramento is playing a little bit quicker now that they have their guys fully healthy. On the other side there, I think De'Aaron Fox is kind of in that sweet spot where he's feels a little more expensive than people are going to want to pay at 8,300 on DK, 84 FanDuel, and 37 on Yahoo. His popularity would shock me if it is much into double digits, if it even reaches double digits, and I think this is an excellent spot. If we look at the last 30 days, Detroit has the sixth worst defensive rating over their last 15 games. It's kind of interesting. So Denver is the second worst, Charlotte's the third worst, Washington fourth worst, Pacers sixth worst. If you start going 10 games, 5 games, 15 games, you'll get a slightly different answer. The reason I like to go 15 games is it encompasses generally about 1 month, and it also usually gets in 2 road trips, plus accounts for enough back-to-backs, as well as days where they get a little more rest, etc., and gives you a bit of a variety amongst opponents. If you only look at like 5 games, you can see a real heavy bent on, if you play a bunch of crappy teams. So, for example, Denver recently, so we know they're not as good without Jamal Murray, Gary Harris, and in particular Paul Millsap. They look a little bit better over their last 5 games because they've played Charlotte, who scored 86 points, Minnesota, who only got 100 on them, Cleveland, that had 103. So, or pardon me, Cleveland. Oops, that's the Clippers had 104. So all of a sudden, that makes their numbers look a little bit better. It doesn't take as much to sway the numbers if you have a small sample size. We average for the bad teams around 110 to 112 per 100 possessions. All it takes is one game in the low 90s to really knock a chunk of that off if you're only looking at a 5-game sample size. So just be careful with that. A couple cheapies here, Chris, that we've got. On the lower end here, you've got Deshante Murray coming in at 52, 53, and 19. I think that's okay. Might be a bit of a stretch, but it's going to be a fun matchup there going against New Orleans. Cheap way to get a little access to that game. I think Monte Morris is intriguing at 48, 4,012. He is someone that can get us some early salary relief going against Houston with all the Denver guys that we set are out. And then, hey, when did Marcus Smart become a marksman? He is at 57, 56, and 26. I believe it was a Celtic record 11 threes in that game previously.
Yeah, he was chalk, and for good purpose. I mean, low price, and with the injuries that were with the guys sitting out, I mean, it was kind of a no-brainer. So, hey, chalk will be chalk at times, but hitting 11 threes, I mean, obviously no one predicted that, but yeah, he went off.
Yeah, that makes for an exciting day there. But let's get on over into shooting guards here, kind of using Morris there or Marcus Smart there as the springboard. You've got Zach LaVine going against Minnesota, former team. Of course, this one is going to be in Chicago. He is way up there. Another guy kind of in that sweet spot pricing where he's not quite a superstar, but he is definitely not cheap at 9,000, 8,841. He is coming off a string of outstanding games. Of course, his upside is generally tied into his shot falling, and it has been recently. So that's respect the streak. I don't know what to do with Mr. Bradley Beal. 72 on the big sites, 40 on Yahoo. Projecting him for about 30 minutes, but it's against Miami. Feels like a tougher matchup. We're not, let me rephrase that. Jimmy Butler should be in. He was out of the slightly surprised late scratch with the hip injury on Monday, but he is slated to be in. We know he plays pretty good defense. How are you feeling about Mr. Bradley Beal there?
Ooh, he's 7,200, man. He played 33 minutes last game. If they give him the green light and he's playing 30 plus minutes we know how much usage he has and he's going to take a ton of shots, I'm okay with that. Even with the situation with Butler, if he plays or not, and we all know that Butler plays great defense, but it doesn't matter. I mean, in this situation, superstars find a way. And with this matchup at 7,200, it's hard for me to say no to that. Obviously, I think, roster construction will get a little bit clearer understanding as we get closer to lock. But it definitely makes sense. Donovan Mitchell's price has come up now a little bit, and I don't think I want to pay. On FanDuel, it's completely different. But here, it went up 500 here. I thought it was a little bit more than that, but even still, here's the thing with Donovan Mitchell. Great raw score. However, though, when it comes to fantasy purposes, he doesn't do much besides score. Yeah. So that's the little bit difficult. Took 19 shots last game, scored 30, and he hit 11 of them. He scored 25 points. He ended up with 37 fantasy points. So if he could just do more, it would make sense. It's a great matchup, but I don't want to go there for 7,800. Russell, on the other hand, in the same game, on the other side of the ball, I don't mind. He is someone who is the captain of the offense right now. And, this team is very fast paced, a lot of possessions. He takes a lot of shots. He's only 8,000. So I'm okay with it, even though it's a little bit of a spot of how slower Utah plays. I don't mind that. If it was in Utah, I would say no go. But since it's at home, I do like it. He did drop 41 fantasy points against Utah last time. So just something to keep into consideration. Other than that, though, up here at the top, we kind of already went over Harden. I'm not going to pay 9,000 for Zach LaVine. I think it's just too much right now. You can go there if you want, and I get it. Minnesota at home, it's a great spot for him. but he's not someone who is maybe say like a Kawhi Leonard or a Paul George, someone who's kind of in that same price range, who I feel has more upside. So I'm not going to go there. But as we go down more, and as we look into like the 6K range, first off, Andrew Wiggins, he's so frustrated, man. It's like he drops 52 DK points to the game before, and then he just is completely nowhere to be found last night against Denver. It's obviously I rostered him, so I'm a little bit bitter there with Andrew Wiggins, because you would think that I saw Towns back now, and I felt like, okay, things have changed because now he's playing better with Towns back in the lineup. It takes the pressure off him defensively with opposing defenses. Obviously, I was wrong, but Buddy Hield 6,800. I guess we can go there. D Rose, man. I mean, who knows what's going to happen with him as far as the trading block? But he's 7K. Definitely has 40 plus DK point fantasy point upside. I like the matchup against Sacramento. This game could have some good fantasy purposes there, in my opinion. But as we go down the EMAC, I'm looking Dillon Brooks. He's 6,200 now. Dropped 53 DraftKings points last night. Insane against New Orleans. Took 25 shots, man. But I got to tell you, when this guy is shooting and he's on, I mean, he's on. And you would think that this game wasn't a fluke, because 2 games prior, 42. 2 games prior before that, 44. He's been in the 30 range quite a few times these last 10 games. I mean, is it fair to say that we can give Dillon Brooks some sort of respect now?
I think we have to. And I still laugh because the Dillon Brooks, Marshawn Brooks aborted trade there with the Wizards last year. Ernie Grunfeld not being clear which Brooks he thought he was getting. They announced the trade, and Memphis had to call him back like, that's not the Brooks we were talking about.
Yeah. So I think he's a great legitimate scorer. He can shoot, and we have to respect that. And fantasy purposes, obviously you get the bonus with the 3-point. If he's knocking them down, man, he becomes very valuable. So I can do it at his price point still. If he's going to keep playing the way that he is and have a role in this offense like that, I'm okay with it.
All right. The guys that catch in my eye are 2 of them. Joe Ingles for Utah going against Golden State. I even with Conley back, I think they're kind of easing him into it. I suspect Jingles to get a little bit more of any potential mop-up duty. We have seen Golden State be a little frisky lately. Tough one there in the overtime for him on Monday, but we'll see. And then I like Alec Burks. So
I like that.
Alec Burks is this is more site specific. 19 on Yahoo is fine. 51 on FanDuel is phenomenal. 64 on DK, that's probably a late slate only play. I do want to point out that he has done quite well in the previous 3 matchups against his former squad. 27 minutes per game, 32 fantasy points per game. That's coming in on 18 points, 4 boards, 3 assists, and 2 combined blocks and steals. So it's adequate. I don't know that I'd get there on DK for the main slate, but I definitely would on FanDuel and Yahoo.
I like that call. I think, with him and his price point, I'm okay there. But also, what about Norman Powell? We talked about this on the early bird Sunday night, man. And, he came through fruition again. In the fourth quarter, he just went absolutely off. But, for him, he's 5,700. And he's someone who they continue to rely on coming off the bench and just really do what he does best. And I mean, that's shoot and as a scorer. Now, here's the thing with him is the matchup is a little bit more difficult than what we've seen here as of late. And so that does concern me a little bit. But with the role that I've seen with him allowing to have so much firepower and shooting a lot, I'm okay with it. So 5,700, he's had 1 bad game in his last 10, 16 fantasy points at Detroit. But other than that, though, 30s and 40s across the board with even a 53-point game as well. So I'm going to continue to go here until I see things change. I'm okay with it. And, other than that, though, I love the Joe Ingles call. I think Kevin Huerter is someone else that, we can consider. He's 5,300. Last game, I felt like he didn't shoot well. He was 3 of 12. So I felt like there could have been a lot more there, 25 DK points. But the Jeff Teague thing, you mentioned it last time, it definitely hurts his minutes because as we've seen, Jeff Teague acquisition 24 and 30 minutes compared to the deep 30 minutes and 40 minutes that we saw him get to. But I still think that he still has a role in this offense. And at 5,300, I'm okay with. The same thing with Terrence Ross coming off the bench, 6-man, legitimate score. 5,200, I'm okay with that too. And then other than that, though, as we go down across the board, I think Jeremy Lamb is probably someone we should look at 4,600, who does have a role in this offense. The only thing that concerns me is his minutes are sporadic, sometimes in the 30s, sometimes in the 20s. But he can get there fantasy-wise. And at 4,600, given the fact that he can score and do some things on the defensive side, if he can get some rebounds, he can definitely get us that 30-point DK mark. So I like Jeremy Lamb at 4,600.
All right, heading on to small forward here. We kind of mentioned a little bit of Ben Simmons. Paul George, unlikely to play. As mentioned, Brandon Ingram, it's tough to pay that price. He did sort of come through with the solid game on Monday, but with Zion in the mix, that could upset the apple cart for predictability for some of the other players here. But Jimmy Butler, as long as he's starting, I'm fine with that. I don't think that hip injury is too serious. 85 on DraftKings, 89. Not as exciting on FanDuel, but he is 37 on Yahoo. That's favorable. This will be the third time he's gone against Washington. He's averaging just over 50 fantasy points in those matchups. Washington's defense has not gotten better at any point in time, so I think Butler's somewhat intriguing there. You have Michael Porter Jr.'s price all over the place. I think if we look at new sponsor Superdraft, he has a 1.8 multiplier. I really like that going against Houston. He's 15 on Yahoo. That's fine. 53 on FanDuel. That's fine. 66 now on DraftKings. That feels like he needs to continue his hot shooting and picking up those steals, which sort of disappeared on him in the last game. So fortunately, he sunk 4 of 8 3-pointers and had, 4 of 8 3-pointers and had 14 rebounds. He only had 1 combined block steal. The games coming into that, he had 2, 3, 3, 2, 3. So he's a guy, it's going to be site specific, but gosh, he has looked good now that he's healthy.
Yeah, I agree. I can get on board with that. I think also here at this position, James and Leonard obviously stand out from the rest, but given that it's a 12-game slate, I really think that the move here is being a little bit more balanced. And when we move down here to the 7K range and the 6K range, we have so many options with Beal, Harris, Barton, Oubre. I like Gallinari lately. I feel like he's come into his own now. I think he's fully healthy, playing in the 30-minute range. And what really surprised me was last game where, he was active on the rebounds, 13 rebounds. He's a guy who can score, taking, 15 plus shots a game, getting to the free throw line. I'm okay with that. At 6,900, I think you have to really say, okay, Gallinari, he can get us there. I mean, look at what he's done since his injury. He's performing. And so I'm definitely on board with that. How do you feel about Michael Porter Jr., man? I have to tell you, yesterday, I was like, man, I think let me focus on Michael Porter tonight. And then I realized he was for 6,500, and I was like, oh my God, I can't pay 6,500 for a guy who's going to come off the bench and not really sure what he's going to do. He dropped 48 DK points last night. EMAC, he looked fantastic. The coach, on the other hand, doesn't know how to roll out this offense, and it's taken all these injuries to see how talented this player is. But he was very talented in college, and now he's becoming a legitimate fantasy guy.
Yeah, I definitely think that is a solid option. We have Buddy Hield, another site-specific guy, 25 on Yahoo, 53 on FanDuel, absolutely 1.5 multiplier on Superdraft, you betcha. 68 on DraftKings makes it a little tough to get there. I love the matchup going against Detroit, but he's the one other guy that really stands out. And then, of course, we got to mention Matisse Thybulle, 10 on Yahoo, 42 on FanDuel. He's good there because you get 3 points for blocks and steals. Starting to get a little tough there for 4,600 on DraftKings because of the way Toronto plays defense and generally does a good job of taking care of the ball. Makes it a little less margin for error on him, harder to find that profit or value yield. Moving on to power forwards, let's change the old filters here. Up at the top, you got one Anthony Davis, who made his return after, what did he miss? Like 5 games, I believe. So that he's going against New York. one of the teams he allegedly potentially spurned. I don't think he was ever going there, but God, all of the Lakers looked awful on Monday. They lost 139-107. Davis played 27 minutes. The interesting thing about that was the sixth most lopsided loss in that series history, and it was the largest in, I want to say, excuse me, 50 years, which is
Wow, is
just
it
kind
really?
of crazy.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, that was
That
one
is
of.
pretty. That is pretty wild. I mean, he's 9,900 AD, and I mean, obviously, foul trouble was a huge concern against Boston, but
Yeah, he
he's
had
99.
he had
He's
five
9,900,
fouls.
man. It's like he's not going to have another bad game like that, and let alone the lack of discipline on the defensive side with him being so careless with fouls. So at 9,900, yeah, I'm okay there, especially in cash. I mean, yeah, I can definitely see that. Brandon Ingram, 8,900. It's like I feel like I always play him as an ownership play. And if the ownership is low, then I kind of like going there. But if it's high, I kind of want to avoid it because of his price point. And I think like this past game, kind of, or excuse me, 2 games ago, and last game actually, because he was 9K. It's kind of like that. And with Drew Holiday, it's like with Drew Holiday out, I feel like he was way more valuable. But with
Yeah,
Drew Holiday back in the offense,
yeah.
obviously
Plus Zion, it's just gonna be
plus exactly. So I feel like from a fantasy production wise, it hurts him. It does. But who is someone I do like is, man, what do you think of Deandre Ayton? Because he's playing absolutely fantastic, and I'm glad to see him healthy. I'm glad to see him back in the rotation, but he looks really good, Emac.
I think it's absolutely fair to go to him, particularly with oh, why am I blanking on his name? Aaron Baines being out. Aiton is getting more minutes. Remember, he missed 25 games, but that was um, the suspension,
Right.
and then he came back for one, and then got hurt and missed another five. So he has been back. Let's see, of the game, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 10 games. He's been back 11. I'm gonna punt on that first one back where he only played 20 minutes. In those 10 games, he has topped 40 fantasy points 6 times. He has not scored less than 31. He has started 6 of those games, and he's averaging, eyeballing it here, about 34 minutes per game, and eyeballing it again, basically a 20 and 10 with 1.7 blocks. That's pretty good. The field goal shot attempts have been relatively solid. 14, 22, 15, 14, 15, 16, 14, 14, 11. You kind of know what you're getting here. Oh, and 13. So that he's like right in a, it's like a metronome. I like him for this matchup. We know that Indiana can be exploited by other bigs because Miles Turner and Domantas Sabonis are not the best defenders out there. There will be a lot of competition for rebounds, but I think this is a fine spot to go to him. And I really like the power forward eligibility he now has on DraftKings. A little tougher to give him the center spot on FanDuel. I'm okay with the 33 on Yahoo with the center spot because we still have the utility spot.
Yeah, and I mean, you can do the leverage play of a power forward with Ayton, who is kind of like a center the way that he plays, and then you have the center and utility now to run 2 centers. So you could really get some firepower in there when it comes to leveraging and being able to still use 2 centers with the ability to put Ayton at the power forward. But other power forwards, Tatum, I'm going to hold off on Tobias Harris. I just don't think right now he's 7,300. I need that price to come down more. We've seen it come down. I mean, he was at 8,300 3 games ago, and now he's 73. So he's come down 1,000, but he's not shooting well, and he's not really doing much else in the offense. And if he can't do that, it's like if he's not shooting well, I mean, what else can he give us? So I'm going to hold off on Tobias. Obviously, John Collins, I'm okay with. Oubre, I'm okay with as well. But I think Al Horford at 6,800, I kind of like that play. I feel like he'll have to play big with Gasol, with Siakam, with Ibaka. I think Al Horford would need to be some extended run in this matchup. And then Aldridge, I think, is cheap. He's cheap against the New Orleans team where this is going to be a fast pace. I think they'll need him on the floor where he can dominate against Jackson Hayes, or if Okafor's back, him as well. if he's getting his 30 minutes, I'm okay with it. He definitely has that 40, 50 point upside. And at 6,800, sometimes you got to roll the dice on that. But then outside of that, as we go down, I'm going to stick with Marvin Bagley. If these other guys, did Giles play last game? I don't think he did. Let me just check real quick. Yeah, he didn't. He was injured. So if he does play this game, I don't know if that really hurts Bagley. But if Rashawn Holmes is continuing to stay out, I think Bagley's price point is great. This is a great matchup for him as well. And he's 6,500. And now he's getting the extended run with minutes. He's getting fully healthy. I really like Marvin Bagley at 6,500. I'm okay there.
Yeah, and so just to close out there on Bagley, he had gotten hurt at the end of the Utah game, which was what day was that? That was on Saturday. Looked like he re-injured that foot that had cost him about 8 games. 2 days off, so 48 hours later, he played a season-high 38 minutes in that overtime game there with Miami. So I think foot concerns aside, he kind of dodged the bullet there. Mm-hmm. I was not as excited about him heading into the weekend. I thought he was going to be playing closer to 25 minutes. I was wrong, and I think we can look to Bagley, particularly on FanDuel at 5,100. That's just well too cheap. Kelly Oubre is kind of an interesting guy. Gone back and forth on him. He's in a bit of a shooting slump right now. He had been putting up. He started out the season in a slump, got incredibly hot. And he is putting up career numbers, 46% on field goals. He's a 43% career shooter, 34.4% on three-pointers. He's a 32.5% shooter. His effective field goal rate this season is 52.3. His career is 49.9. Free throws kind of right in line with this career, but that's kind of really neither here nor there. But it's one of those where we're seeing new a demonstrated level of ability now that he is getting career high in minutes, career high in shot attempts, career high in everything now that he's starting and playing a ton of minutes. The thing we got to remember is this is his 7th year in the league. Is that right? Nope, sorry, that I've counted wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th year in the league, and he's only 24.
That's incredible.
It's pretty crazy. He was only 20 when he was a rookie there with the Wizards. So
wow,
and it feels like a long time for me because he was kind of my favorite player on the Wizards. Because you'd see him on highlights because he had the floppy hair. He could jump out of the gym and he'd have the D-gaff. I'm gonna dunk on anybody when he would get minutes on the second unit, and then he'd go into the starting lineup and he would just literally defer to everybody.
That's amazing.
Oh. Kelly Oubre, sad you're not with the Wizards anymore. All right, let's hit centers and we will get on out of here. And I'll mention a couple good multiplier plays here on Super Draft. You've got Andre Drummond in a matchup there against Sacramento. I really don't think they're equipped to deal with him. Motivation and minutes are going to be the question, but he has always have 20-20 upside. Nikolai Vucevic, I'm staying away. Don't really like the matchup there for him with Steven Adams. I think he'll be just fine, but it's not fine for fantasy purposes. I'm not really excited about Clint Capella dealing with Nikola Jokic. On the other side, I'm kind of a meh for Jokic. His price has ticked up. He's going to have to shoot because there's nobody else left. But I think if I was going to recommend one guy off the bat here, it's going to be one Mr. Rudy Gobert. 8,500 on DK. Very nice. FanDuel, no thank you. He is $10,000. I do not think I've ever seen Rudy Gobert that high.
I don't think so either.
Is there an error in my VLOOKUPs here? Did I download the wrong CSV file?
You said he's 10K on FanDuel, right?
10K on FanDuel, 39 on Yahoo, and
85 on DK. Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with that. On FanDuel, I don't know. I feel like I'd rather.
I need 10 blocks from him at 3 points apiece.
Oh, can he get there? That's the thing. He does have 10 blocks in like his last 4 games, though, or 9 blocks, excuse me. But still, regardless, I don't know if I want to pay for him on FanDuel. I think I'm at 8,500 on DK. I'm okay with. AD, I mean, we already spoke of. Towns, I don't know how I feel about him right now. Definitely showed some improvements last game against Denver. So, I mean, he's getting back into that groove. if he can start doing that, I mean, we're going to have to start really focusing on him being a valuable fantasy option yet again. So he's 10-4. I think one more game for me I'm okay with, but this is a great matchup for him at Chicago. So ownership, I'll focus on that and see where he's at and see kind of how it matches up a little bit before lock, but someone to consider and just keep in mind of. I think I like Bam Adebayo, or Adebayo, however you say it, but this is a great matchup for him at home against Washington. Ian Mahimi, by the way, just came off a career game. I don't know if you saw his box score, Mac. Did you see it?
I did not.
It had to have been the best game of his life. I'm not sure if he ever had one like this. Listen to this. He was 9 of 10, right? He even made a three-pointer. And then he had 21 points, 3 blocks, 2 steals, 7 rebounds, and an assist in 23 minutes. Put up 41 DK points. I don't know if we'll ever see that again from him, but he's 5,300 in that same game, so I'm going to go ahead and mention him just in case if you want to roll the dice or take a gamble on him. But outside of that, though, a lot of these guys we already spoke of. I think Montrezl Harrell, 6,800 at Atlanta. I'm okay with that. A lot of their guys are banged up right there in the front court, so someone to consider. Valanciunas 6,700. I think they'll need him a little bit more, especially with Cantor coming off the bench. So he's someone to look at. And I'm okay with Jaren Jackson Jr. in that same game. They like Jaren Jackson Jr. He's playing pretty well. A little bit inconsistent at times, but he's 6,500 and he can easily get you 35, 40 fantasy points. So from the 6K range up, those are the guys that I would focus on as far as the center position.
All right, I have to look it up because it's going to make me mad.
What?
The Jan Mahimny contract. So this is his 4th year. I was kind of excited when the Wizards got him just a little bit. So they got him for his age 29 season. I wasn't excited for the dollar amount. This is a 4-year, $64 million contract.
Oh,
he then proceeded to get hurt. And I was kind of excited because he was, who was it? Was it Al Jefferson? Or that's not even the right name of the guy. Anyway, he was the backup center there for the Pacers for a long time, and he would just get blocked shots. It was just infuriating going against him, etc. So I thought, all right, well, hey, the Wizards are going to get him. Well, one, I didn't realize how damn old he was. He was 29 when he joined the Wizards. He's 33 now. This is his 12th year in the league, and he's wrapping up the year 4 of a $60 million contract in which he has played in approximately 45% of the games the Wizards have played in that stretch.
Oh my gosh.
Hashtag Grunfeld.
Oh my God. I didn't know he got that much money.
And you thought the John Wall contract was bad, narrator. Oh, it's bad. But Jan Mahimny paving the way there, baby.
Wow. Okay. Well, either way, just let you know, I was still shocked about that game. So I figured
that was phenomenal. But he would show flashes in 17 minutes. And you're like, oh my God, if this guy just got 28 minutes a game, he'd be just a monster. He'd be a force to be reckoned with. He'd be up in the top 10 from the league in blocks and probably there in steals. Yeah, no. Unfortunately, per minute stats are per minute for a reason.
Amazing. Well, hey, I'll tell you what, if he can do it once, I'm sure he can do it again. So we might as well just keep that in mind.
For his next team. All right, kind of wrapping it up, looking down for the cheapies. Ibaka, very cheap. Of course, Marc Gasol is back. I think either one of those guys is kind of interesting going against a Joel Embiid-less 76ers squad. You've got Ibaka 5 on DraftKings, 58 on FanDuel, 26 on Yahoo. He's more of a DraftKings play. Where's my other guy there? Gasol is 48 on DK, 51 on FanDuel, and 19 on Yahoo. I prefer him on the first 2 sites. And then, interestingly enough, both Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee have been flirting and or getting double-doubles regularly in the same games. That's pretty crazy, but there's a lot of bigs there in New York. So we should see them getting solid minutes at the center spot. Yes, the Lakers can always, quote, go smaller with, hell, even LeBron can play center, but with Davis there. But I think with all these bigs, they'll play one of their traditional centers most of the game with the Knicks, and I think that could be some hidden value out there. Looking at the multipliers here with some decent, just created my little VLOOKUPs here. So I'm coming up with DeAndre Ayton Oh, no wonder it looks good where he's high. That's just filtered on centers there. Sort this here. So I think the guys we want to look at are Deandre Aiden, who has a 1.4 multiplier. Marvin Bagley, 1.7. I'm getting them with just literally baseline projections as two of the top 5 scorers, but those are not the names you would expect to see next to Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Davis, Andre Drummond, etc. And again, keep in mind you do get 3 points for blocks and steals on Super Draft, and you get half a point for 3-pointers, and you also get the double-double and triple-double bonus of half or 1.5 points there. So it's fun over there at Super Draft. I've been dabbling there. Reminder, when you sign up, if you put in $100 and you use the promo code AWESEMO, they will immediately give you $20 in Super Draft cash. I've been playing over there. I think I've done 8 or 9 slates now. I'm still playing off. I still have Super Draft cash in my account, shall we say, because I've been winning, so I haven't had to dip into it. Which is now that I say that, that's a little bit weird. Anyway, I'm up money, and I looked today, and I have 50 cents left in Super Draft cash. So, and I put in my $100, and I'm at 104. Nice. Not bad. Nice little return there.
Not bad at all.
You got to look for these little edges.
You're a born winner, Emac. Just okay. You're a born winner. And
aim small, miss small. Don't see your name in lights, but you don't have to hit that redeposit button.
Heroes are remembered, but legends never die.
Oh boy. All right. Well, on that high note, I think your edible's kicking in right now, Chris.
Man, after this podcast, absolutely. It's popping right now. Woo!
All right. Well, we're going to get on out of here. You can follow Chris over there on Twitter at Chris Randone. I am at EMACDFS. And of course, it is Awesemo_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.